First, I want to let you know that I'm very pleased to see you online. Last week, we learned about various aspects of value and its components. As well, we were introduced to the 8 steps to the appraisal process. Now, some textbooks teach this in a 7-step or in some other configuration. It really isn't important, so long as all the pieces fit into the appraisal process. This week, we'll be learning about the 3 ways we legally describe property. The meets and bounds system, which basically is a system where you have a point of beginning, and then you go so many feet or meters in a certain direction, and then you go another distance in another direction, and then another distance in another direction, which is all described, and then comes back to what's called the point of beginning, or the POB. There's also the rectangular survey system, which is described basically by townships and sections. A section is a square mile. There are 640 acres in a section. Now, you might remember the last time you were on an airplane or maybe watching a movie and you look down, for example, over the Central Valley, and you see all these plots of land. Well, a lot of those are sections, and a lot of them are quarter sections, and a lot of them are even smaller, 16th sections. So a quarter section, for example, would be 640 acres, which is one section, divided by a quarter, which would be 160 acres. So when you hear the old story about, I'm going to go back out and work on the back 40, in some of the movies, that's what they're talking about. The back 40 acres that maybe they need to plow up or whatever they were doing. Then the last one is what's called the lot, block, and tract system. I believe this is on page 118 in the textbook, or close to that area. And the lot, block, and tract is something we're probably more familiar with. The lot, block, and tract has to do with maybe, like, for example, the tract number of where your home was built. The textbook also introduces us to some of the more simple math calculations for which we must be familiar. For example, figuring out the square footage of a home from a sketch we make or a floor plan. Chapter 5 deals with understanding data and the collection of data. Real property appraisal deal with market trends data. It deals with data regarding the subject property. It deals with data regarding comparable sales. Some of this data is generated by the appraiser, some by data sources, for example, MLS or multiple listing service that the realtors use. Some of it is the data generated by the assessor's office. There's also data collected and distributed by the title companies. And there are other sources of data. Chapter 6 deals with site valuation. It is extremely important, though, you understand how to value the site, or the dirt as we refer to it. Depending on the zoning, what is legally allowed to be built on the dirt can make an enormous difference in the value of the property. For example, it may be that a small lot in a residential neighborhood appears to be suited for building a house. However, when we investigate the zoning, we find that a commercial use might be allowable. It might be that there are very few commercial properties in the area, and this property might be available for a small retail store or even a convenience store. This could make an enormous difference on the value of the property. This analysis we do is referred to as a highest and best use analysis. On every appraisal we do, we must examine the property and find out what the most productive thing we could legally build on the property. A residential house, an existing residential house, on a major street may be more valuable as an office for a CPA or for an attorney than to be continued as a residence. Maybe, maybe not. It's our job to figure that out. Well, I'll see you next week, and happy hunting. Thank you.